Hello there, and welcome to the next exciting episode of the Car Quest of H.P. Lovecraft. Now, you may notice pretty much immediately that this is not, that you do not see me. And there's a good reason for that. The main reason being that I did film an episode yesterday, as I am recording this Saturday, which is when this episode's supposed to come out. So I did record an episode reviewing this story, The Picture in the House, but something went wrong. The audio of the file just kept cutting in and out and in and out, and it was on the phone too. So I don't know how to fix it. I don't know what's going on. Maybe by next Saturday when the next episode comes out. I should have mentioned that last episode. These come out every Saturday. I guess let's hope I keep up with it more than I did with Q&A Saturday. Am I right? So anyway, I apologize if this is going to be basically an audio only episode. So anyway, on to the story, which I also read yesterday. The Picture in the House. So this, I should also mention that the last episode, The Rats in the Walls, okay, so I like it said in the episode, I recorded it back in January when I was originally just going to do little tiny short reviews, just sort of giving my thoughts and general sort of overview of what happens in the story and all this. And I feel like, while I am still going to do that, I feel like I should probably give something a little meatier. Something, maybe give it a little bit of more of a, you know what I mean? Make something, give more than just my thoughts. And so I also decided that I am going to also give some little factoids about the stories that we read that relate to the larger H.P. Lovecraft universe. Because if you read a few of his stories, you realize that a lot of the ideas and a lot of the characters and a lot of the entities all sort of exist in the same universe. So we're just going to also go over those real quick, and after I give my thoughts, and it'll be fun. So, yeah. So anyway, The Picture in the House. This is the second story in the Best H.P. Lovecraft Blood-Curdling Tales of Horror and the Macabre collection. And, yeah, this one was actually, really, really creepy. I read it yesterday, and I was kind of just honestly, the opening scene of what I originally recorded was basically me just God, that was creepy, because it is. And, to sort of give you, let's go over the idea to sort of give you sort of a bit of an overview. So The Picture in the House, it's set in November of the 1890s. And it basically follows this guy who is on a bike, I think it's a bike, and it starts raining. And he's sort of looking for a place to, find shelter. And he comes across this old house. And when he enters it, it becomes very obvious that this house, there's something off about it. There's books that are centuries old, and I think one book is from the 1500s or something like this. And sooner or later he comes across this old man who also lives in the house. And the old man has a very interesting way of speaking. He sort of speaks, I think Lovecraft describes it as sort of he describes it as kind of like a Yankee dialect that was thought long extinct or something like this. And so he sort of talks to the old man, and it also becomes very obvious that something is off with this old man. Because there's also a reference to this book. I looked it up later. Apparently it's kind of a real book. I'm not quite sure on it. And it gives this description of an illustration within the book of a butcher shop, and in a grotesque sort of detail, or as grotesque as you can get in an H.P. Lovecraft story. And things get pretty creepy pretty quick. I won't spoil anymore. I will say though, I think one of the main reasons that this story creeped me out so much when I first read it, and still kind of creeps me out now, sort of thinking about it, is see, my father is like an archaeologist, and so he goes and he sort of looks into like older places and things like that, and he we go as a family every summer, almost every summer, to Charlotte, North Carolina, to see the relatives and stuff like that. And both when we're on the way to Charlotte and when we're on the way to the beach midway through in South Carolina, we come across sort of oldish, sort of looking houses in the middle of the countryside, and the fact that Lovecraft and I really like how Lovecraft really sort of describes the old house, because he describes it as like plaster is going up, the plaster's like off the walls, and everything's kind of dusty. There's his aroma to the place, and it kind of reminded me of sometimes when Dad and I, or maybe my brother's there, maybe a friend or two are there, and we just kind of investigate sort of sort of older places that kind of seem, abandoned-ish. And I even remember one time there was kind of an oldish house that I was kind of nervous to go into, and I think that this story did kind of dredge up that sort of fear before. It dredged up that fear. Not before, but it dredged it up after a long time. And I think that's what made it so effective, is that it really, because I think we've all kind of, had road trips and we see old sort of creepy houses on the side of the road, and yeah, I think that that can be really, really creepy, and I think Lovecraft nails that completely. I even kind of got a opening of Resident Evil 7 vibes from the opening of the story. When you first go into the Baker family house, and you're just sort of exploring, like the kitchen and the lower areas first. Um, and yeah, and it's a creepy story. uh, I'm pretty sure I've made that clear. Um, I will say though, it does feel it's not in much it's not as fleshed out as Lovecraft's other stories. It's not as fleshed out as like Rats in the Walls, or like Call of Cthulhu, or some of his other stories that I've read. I've only read a bit of Call of Cthulhu, but we'll get there when we get there. So yeah, it's not as fleshed out. It does kind of feel at the end, it ends very abruptly. It does kind of feel like Lovecraft was kind of like, okay, so there's creepy stuff happening, and then boom, it just kind of ends. And I think that is kind of a critique I could give it. Also, uh, when he's describing the book, there are some parts where, and there is some dialogue from the old guy, which does have racist language in it, which did make me cringe. Um, and like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where to go from here now. I just kind of roll myself into a corner. Um, I don't know. It's just that did kind of get in the way, I guess. I did cringe and I did flinch whenever the because I also listened along to a horror babble when I was reading along, and horror babble is still really good, and I think he also really nails the voice of the old man. It makes it sound really creepy, and the way he describes everything, it's very, very creepy. But yeah, whenever the racist language comes up, it does make me really, really cringe inside. Um, but through thick and thin, I will get through this series. Through thick and thin, I swore to myself that I would do it. So anyway, all that aside, I do think that this is a good story. I think again, it is short. It does feel not as fleshed out as it could have been. The ending did kind of leave me confused, and I kind of had to look up later. What was that? What happened? But I do agree that this should be included in the best of H.P. Lovecraft. I can see why it is included in this collection. So anyway, that is it for the picture in the house, or at least my personal take on it. I would probably place it in maybe under Rats on the Walls. Again, if only for just being not as fleshed out as Rats on the Walls, which is also kind of ironic because this is the second story in the collection, and Rats on the Walls was the first in the collection. And I'm putting picture under Rats, so that's interesting. So anyway, before we close though, I did want to mention the references to the larger Lovecraft universe. There's not as many references as we're going to get into later, but there are two notable references that are important as we move on our car quest, as it were. Miskatonic Valley. And for my fellow Lovecraft fans, you know Miskatonic Valley, Miskatonic University. And Miskatonic University is going to be very important as we continue, as is the town of Arkham. I'm not sure if this is where these two are first mentioned. I maybe they are, but where I read it from, Wikipedia. I think it's like it gives the foundations, but it doesn't. It just kind of references it by name, kind of like how Rats in the Walls mentioned Nyarlathotep by name, and Nyarlathotep is also a very, very important name that we will come to realize as we move on. So we have Miskatonic University, the town of Arkham, and from the last story, the deity known as Nyarlathotep, the Crawling Chaos. So this is episode 2 of the Car Quest of H.P. Lovecraft. Once more, I apologize for the non-visual element of this story, of this episode, rather. I'll try and figure out a way around it next week. But until next time, this has been the Car Quest of H.P. Lovecraft. I have been your host, Andrew Carr, and I will see you next Saturday with the story known as The Outsider.